Have you ever looked at your life and thought, something's got to change? Maybe it was 3 a.m. and you were staring at your phone, lost in another spiral of doom scrolling. Or maybe it was a quiet Sunday afternoon when the silence got loud enough to ask, what am I doing with my life? The truth is, it's not the big decisions that shape our destiny. It's the small ones, the quiet choices, the overlooked moments when we say yes or no to the same tiny behaviors, again and again. Welcome to Atomic Habits. This isn't just another self-help guide, this is a blueprint for transformation, built not on motivation or willpower, but on systems, identity, and the invisible force of small habits. So, if you're ready to change your life, not someday but today, let's begin. James Clear begins with a profound truth. Success doesn't come from radical change, it comes from small improvements made consistently. Think of a plane leaving Los Angeles, pointed 3 degrees to the south. That tiny shift doesn't seem like much, but over time it lands you in Mexico instead of New York. This is the power of tiny gains. If you get just 1% better each day, you'll be 37 times better by the end of the year. But the reverse is also true. A 1% decline compounds into weakness. And yet, we dismiss small habits because they don't deliver instant results. You do 10 push-ups today, and nothing changes. You skip 1 cigarette, and you're still a smoker. That's the trap, the plateau of latent potential. Clear says breakthroughs are often the result of many previous actions stored silently. Just like ice melts not at 31 degrees, but at 32 degrees. All that effort wasn't wasted, it was just hidden. That's what habits are. Compounding investments, invisible until they aren't. So if you're thinking of starting small, do. Small is everything, because habits aren't just the path to change, they're the vehicle of identity. Most people focus on what they want to achieve. I want to lose weight. I want to write a book. I want to be more productive. But Clear says, this is the wrong place to start. Instead of outcome-based habits, we need identity-based habits. Because true behavior change isn't about what you do, it's about who you believe you are. Let me break it down. There are 3 layers of behavior change. First, outcomes, what you get. Second, processes, what you do. Third, identity, what you believe. Most people try to change from the outside in, but lasting change, it begins from the inside out. You don't become a writer by finishing a book. You become a writer by writing, by showing up, even when it's hard, even when no one reads it. Clear says, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Want to be a fit person? Each workout is a vote. Want to be a calm person? Each deep breath is a vote. It's not about being perfect. You don't need 100% of the vote. But the more you cast, the more your identity solidifies. So ask yourself, not what do I want, but who is the kind of person that would do this every day? Then start being that person. Because when your habits align with your identity, change isn't something you chase. It becomes something you live. So, if identity is the foundation, then habits are the bricks. But how do we actually build them the right way? James Clear gives us a framework, the 4 laws of behavior change. Simple, actionable, powerful. Here's how it works. Every habit follows this feedback loop. 1, cue, the trigger. 2, craving, the desire. 3, response, the action. 4, reward, the result that makes us repeat it. Clear says, if you want better habits, you don't need to rely on motivation. You just need to design the system. The 4 laws are the instructions for that system. Law 1, make it obvious. Law 2, make it attractive. Law 3, make it easy. Law 4, make it satisfying. Let's break them down. We can't change a habit we don't notice. Awareness is the first step. You need to make the cue visible. Clear suggests a habit scorecard. Write down your daily habits and rate if they're good, bad, or neutral. It shines a light on patterns you didn't know were there. And then, use implementation intention. Instead of saying, I'll work out tomorrow, say, I'll work out at 7 a.m. in my living room after I drink coffee. It sounds simple, but small clarity unlocks consistent action. Our brain is hardwired for rewards. So if a habit feels good, we're more likely to do it again. That's where temptation bundling comes in. Temptation bundling equals pairing something you want to do with something you need to do. Love Netflix? Only watch while doing chores. Enjoy lattes? Only sip while planning your day. Also, join a tribe. We imitate people we admire. If fitness is normal in your group, it becomes normal for you too. Forget perfection. Focus on starting. Clear says, habits are the entrance ramp to mastery. Not the highway, the ramp. Use the 2-minute rule. Make the habit so small it's impossible to fail. Want to read more? Start with 1 page. Want to run daily? Just put on your shoes and automate it. Reduce friction, lay out clothes, prep meals, set reminders, make good habits the default. The ending of a habit matters. If it feels good, it sticks. That's why instant rewards help. Create visual proof, use habit streaks, celebrate small wins, and never miss twice. 1 off day is fine. 2, that's the start of a new habit, the wrong one. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. Habits shape who you are, and with the 4 laws, you can shape your habits. Habits are like invisible scripts that guide our daily lives. But before you can change them, you have to be able to see them. That's where the first law of behavior change begins. Make it obvious. James Clear introduces the concept of the habit loop cue: craving, response, reward. Every habit begins with a cue, something that triggers the behavior. The more obvious the cue, the more likely the habit is to occur. So how do we become aware of our current habits? One powerful tool is the habit scorecard. By listing your habits and marking them as positive, negative, or neutral, you make the invisible visible. Then there's the strategy of implementation intentions. It's not enough to say, I'll exercise more. Instead, say, I will exercise at 7 a.m. in my living room for 30 minutes. And finally, habit stacking. Attach a new habit to an existing one. Like, after I brush my teeth, I'll meditate for 1 minute. The key takeaway? Your environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. If you want to master your habits, design your space to trigger the right ones. Make the cues of good habits obvious, and the cues of bad habits invisible. That's how change starts, with awareness. Habits are like invisible scripts that guide our daily lives, but before you can change them, you have to be able to see them. That's where the first law of behavior change begins. Make it obvious. James Clear introduces the concept of the habit loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. Every habit begins with a cue, something that triggers the behavior. The more obvious the cue, the more likely the habit is to occur. So how do we become aware of our current habits? One powerful tool is the habit scorecard. By listing your habits and marking them as positive, negative, or neutral, you make the invisible visible. Then there's the strategy of implementation intentions. It's not enough to say, I'll exercise more. Instead, say, I will exercise at 7 a.m. in my living room for 30 minutes. And finally, habit stacking. Attach a new habit to an existing one, like, after I brush my teeth, I'll meditate for 1 minute. The key takeaway? Your environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. If you want to master your habits, design your space to trigger the right ones. Make the cues of good habits obvious, and the cues of bad habits invisible. That's how change starts, with awareness. Let's be honest, if something doesn't look appealing, we're not going to do it. That's where the second law of behavior change comes in. Make it attractive. James Clear says, the more attractive an opportunity, the more likely it is to become habit-forming. So, how do we make good habits attractive? One key tool is temptation bundling. Temptation bundling means you pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. Like, only listen to your favorite audiobook while working out. Next, join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. We imitate the habits of 3 groups: the close, the many, and the powerful. Want to read more? Hang with readers. Want to eat healthy? Dine with health-conscious people. It's not just motivation, it's magnetism. We become like the people we spend time with. Here's the kicker. If you want to make habits attractive, create rituals that feel rewarding before the reward. Make it attractive, and your brain will come back for more. In the next chapter, we go even deeper, because desire is nothing without action.